So then once I get the valve cover off, first thing I like to do is check how much chain slack I have here on this side. And to do that, rotate it in this direction. And there's the startup rattle right there. That's where it's coming from. I'm going to mark the cam gear. It has a punch mark in it. I don't know if you can see it, it's right there. But I'll just put a little daub of paint on that. Just makes it easier to see. Right there. And then next, I'll start marking the chain links. And there's the first one to mark right there. Clean that. Put just a dot of paint on that. Now we'll look for one more. And there it is right here. Clean that off. Next thing I do is I rotate this cam gear until one of these links line up with the punch mark on the gear. There's 17. It lined up already. It takes 17 rotations of this cam gear for this mark to line up. And if I were to rotate this 17 more rotations, this would not line up with that punch mark until the 17 rotations. So I bring this up to so that this keyway is pretty close to 12 o'clock, or whenever the thing feels like it's at a rest, which is pretty close to 12 o'clock. You can feel the engine and the cam, and when there's no friction on it, it'll have kind of a real loose spot in there. Right now it's starting to get kind of tough, and then right there it's pretty loose. So now that I've got this cam gear set to top dead center, I take and rotate the engine slightly in this direction. What that does is it takes all the slack out of this side and it puts it on this side over here. And as I look down there, it looks like that piston is extended about maybe a quarter inch or about there, but it's so far down in there I don't have anything to measure it with. So what I do is I get actually this is just a strip from a milk jug, cardboard, anything would work, but square it off and make yourself a go no-go gauge. Curl it a little bit, hold it down in there on that piston to see how far the piston is extended. Looks like I'm going to have to cut about half of this off. And what we want to do is cut this down until it fits in there where the piston is extended out. You know, that's fitting right in there. Just a little bit more. Take about 1/16 off of it here. And that's how far the piston is extended out. And so I'm going to use an adjustable piston and fit a new piston in there and adjust it to that length. Now I've put a flashlight in here and I've got it pointing at the piston as it's extended. I'm going to move the camera to see if I can't get a better shot. Might take a second or two to focus. I'm going to go down and see if I can see with this camera the piston as it's extended out of the hydraulic tensioner. This right here is the hydraulic tensioner, and this piece right there is the piston as it's extended out, and that's what's causing the chain to be actually too slack at startup. That's the piston right there, and that's what I had the no-go gauge checking right in between there. Well, in fact, I got the gauge right here. I'll see if I can stick it in there. See if you can see if I can get it in there without my hands getting in the way. Yeah, see right there, that's where the go-no gauge checks the distance of that piston travel right there. It goes right in there. So I'm going to adjust the excess of chain slack out of the chain using this adjustable piston. As you can see, it's got some shims on there, different thicknesses. And there's two different ways of adjusting this piston. One is just go ahead and slide these on and then keep checking it with your go, no-go gauge. Looks like it needs a little more. And that looks good there. If for some reason I didn't have the correct size shim, you can use just a stone or a sanding block, and you can adjust the individual shims by hand. It just takes a few minutes. But yeah, this one is ready to go in. Put a rag down here just to keep anything from falling down into the oil pan. It doesn't have to be a large rag, just something to keep anything stray from going down there. And also pack it underneath the piston. That's important to get it under the piston because we'll be pulling that piston out of there. We don't want it to fall down. Well, now it's time to get that piston out of there. That wedge keeps the chain from falling down, and also the bungee helps the chain from falling off the crank gear. But with the bungee on there, I can go ahead and pull the wedge out. Now with the gear removed, I'm going to stuff that rag just a little bit more underneath the piston. Then you can use one of these gizmos. Also, what works good is just a wire that's been bent on here, a hoop on there. But to reach down there and pull that piston out. And here we have the piston out. And there's the replacement with the shims on it. And we'll fish that back down in there. Okay, we got that in there. So now with that adjustable piston in there, time to put things back together. I normally use a smaller wedge when it goes back together. Large one will work, but the smaller one seems to give a lot more room when it comes time to putting the cam gear back on. But we'll push on that adjustable guide to get that piston to slide in. And at the same time, put this wedge in here between the chain. That also helps the chain keeps it from falling off the crank gear. Now we'll mesh this gear back into the chain. Lining up the timing mark on it. And then from there, it should slide right on. It's on. It slid on pretty nice. Just in case that falls off. We'll pull the wedge out. So now with the cam sprocket bolt in there, I can rotate this slightly, and I've got just a little bit of chain slack in there. It's not too much. Piston's moving back and forth. As I rotate this, I can see it. It's moving back and forth maybe a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch. But I'll go ahead and get this torque down and put it back together and start it up, see what it sounds like.